Hello and good morning. This is my first weekend stream, so trying something different. Today we're going to be sculpting a draconian Slaad, kind of like a hybrid. So I have my starting base mesh here because I've never sculpted a spooky toad tit before. Just these little cute frog folk. So that'll be something a little different. Alrighty, well, let's get started. Alrighty here. So a couple things. Our proportions are obviously much too cute for this. So this already would be a good starting stamp. Let's go ahead and put him right here. And yeah, let's get to work. First thing I'm gonna do is change the poly paint here, so it's just a little darker and spookier. I'm liking this reference here from the red Slaad from World Anvil. Finding color that I like. There we go. And my favorite things to do is just to add some basic gradients and highlights everywhere. Just adds a little bit more depth to the model. Kind of gets me in the mindset for what this creature is going to be. Because as of now, I love how cute he is, but it's not quite the point of this model. So. Alright, got some different poly paint on here, and now let's go ahead and jump in and get these proportions changed up pretty significantly. Alright, so the first thing that I'm noticing is that he has this big hunchback, so let's go ahead and start there. I'm going to lower the subdivision levels as low as they go, and start bringing that hunchback. I'm going to start with the move brush, pulling these shapes upwards. He will have a belly, but not as much as he has right now. And then I want the legs to be a lot longer as well. Broader shoulders, and also making the head much smaller. Something that'll make this easier is actually if I jump into Transpose Master here, and that's going to allow me to change all the subtools at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that. Easiest way to do this is shrinking the size of the head, and then this is going to belong kind of on his chest. And we'll have to get rid of his very, very cute expression. As much as I enjoy it, it doesn't suit this model specifically. Also gonna make his eyes much smaller. That will help make this spooky look here. The placement will largely be the same though. All these adjustments in the beginning here, I'm using the move brush for. Bring out his little nose. There we go. And then I'm thinking an underbite would suit this character well. So let's go ahead and bring that chin forward. Alright, we're getting there. Arch is here, good morning. Today we're sculpting a draconian Slaad hybrid. I have this really cute frog folk base mesh that I sculpted a few months ago. But now we need to make a new mesh here. Much different proportions, still frog and toad-esque, but everything else is pretty different. Right now I'm in Transpose Master, just manually changing a lot of these forms. By being in Transpose Master, it lets me adjust every subtool at the same time. We're also going to be giving this creature these really big, long claws. I'll be doing that once we're done getting the proportions mostly blocked out. I'm already seeing some pretty good progress here. His legs are going to be much longer as well, and not so much of like this teardrop shape. So let's go ahead and move his hip bones higher. And bring his shoulders even taller. His feet are also going to be much longer, and we're going to end up putting claws on them similar to the way that we're going to do the hands later on. The bend, so the legs are much, much longer. They're going to take up about the same amount of space, but they're going to be a lot longer. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Making them larger, and then a much stronger bend in them. There we go. So I'm always looking at reference points of how everything's gonna fall. I see that this, I don't know what that bone's actually called because these are not real legs. They're kind of this digitigrade style, but they're also much, much longer and exaggerated than even I'm used to doing, which is kind of neat. So let's go ahead and pull that joint way back here. And it looks like it settles slightly in front of his butt. Mask a new joint there. And then using my gizmo, I'm gonna pull that straight down. I might need to put a new bone right here too, because I'm starting to run out of topology to make this a thing. There we go. I have just enough. It's really important to get that angle correct too. So see how this right now I have parallel to the floor? In my reference, it's actually a slight angle upwards. So let's go ahead and tuck that up. There we are. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but the snoring sound in the background is my dog. The weather is finally starting to get really cold, and even though we keep the house pretty warm, I swear it just makes him sleep all the time now. Alright, that's a good improvement. Now let's make those legs a bit wider. So there's a lot of grabbing stuff with a mask and then going in with my gizmo to actually move them. I'm gonna start building up a bit more volume here with the standard brush and maybe even the clay brush. When you have these large hulking shoulders, that's really going to complement this hunchback we're giving him. There we are. Alright, let's grab the entire model, kind of like at his midpoint here, and then rotate him forward so he's a little more balanced. I'll do the same kind of translation, but a little lower down. There we go. Now we're starting to really get that hunchback shape. Santa's here. Good morning. All right. He still has his face is much too happy and cute, but one thing at a time. The arms are also a lot longer than the basic mesh that I started with. The markers are still roughly the same, where your elbow is falling roughly at his waistline here. I can see in this reference I got from World Anvil. But I need to go ahead and make his forearms much, much longer. And a big part of that will also be adding the nails to the hands. That's really going to elongate the silhouette too. All right, I'm gonna smooth out his little smile. As cute as it is, it's not fitting for this specific model. Alrighty. And it's really important that his face is still staying very squished. As of now, it's kind of looking more snout-like, kind of like a dog, which is not quite what we're wanting. So let's go ahead and mask this bottom jaw, go with my gizmo, and crush that. Eyes are still much too big, so we're gonna make those smaller, and that's gonna prevent this model from looking too cutesy. There we go. Still a pretty flat head. I think we're losing a little bit of the toad-like lizard proportion, so there we go. That's a bit better. Sent says, you make this look so easy. I got Nomad Sculpt yesterday, and the only thing I can make is a potato. I mean, hey, it's better than nothing. I always really hype up my students when they make their first, like, something from nothing, because the world is now one potato art richer since you've tried. And also, I hope I'd make it look easy. I've been doing this nonstop for about 5 years. Oh, that was a really good snort. Okay. I have a pug, so he's got that little squish face, and my goodness, he makes all kinds of strange noises. I don't think the mic's even picking it up, but he's right behind me, all wrapped up in his blanket, sound asleep. All right, we've made some pretty good progress. Much stronger and much more similar to a reference here. I'm not loving the head. I feel like I'm just not quite getting that right. So the way that I kind of troubleshoot, like in proportions, when I know something looks wrong, but I can't quite figure out what is wrong with it, what I do is I look for markers and like proportional relationships. So a few references here. I have just really these two, because there's not a whole lot of slaads out there, much less or draconian slaads. So it looks like the top part of his head is, I'm looking at the eye here and right here. Looks like he's got one eye width on top and one eye width on the bottom. So I can start measuring things in terms of eyeballs, and that helps a lot. I do the same thing when measuring the entire body. I just measure it in terms of heads. So we have one piece you kind of use as a building block. It's kind of like a measuring tape. That's how I can kind of block out proportions and see what's going on. I honestly might just scrap the head entirely and just start in with the sphere. But let's worry about that later. I'm gonna ignore the head for right now since I've decided that I'm not happy with it. And instead, I'm gonna work on the proportions just a little bit more because I'm having a little bit more success there. That's another thing that's a really good tip for any of my students that are watching or either in the future or right now. If you're struggling with a part on a model, it's good to note that and keep that in your mind, but it's important to also see where you're succeeding and then keep pushing those forms as well. Having a pretty good understanding of how the body is working and where the musculature is laying. So I'll keep working on that and then I'll revisit the head kind of like in little bursts and attempts. So I'm just kind of carefully going through with my move brush and filling out this shape a little better. I kind of have a flat spot on the back here. So let's go ahead and build this up. It's the back of his deltoid looking a little silly, and that hard line shouldn't be there. That'd be one round muscle. There we go. His bicep looked good, his deltoid looks pretty good, his triceps look a little flat. I might need a reference to remember exactly how those fit. And then he doesn't really have any shoulder blades to speak of. He's also a toad, so I don't have to get too perfect with human anatomy here. right, looking pretty good. Voxel's here. Hiya. Do me a favor. Could you say, hi, Lorraine? Yes. Hi, Lorraine. Alrighty. I think I'm going to move out of Transpose Master now, and then I'm going to go to working on that head and getting more of that blocked in. Maybe those fingernails I mentioned as well. So Transpose Master, T-Pose, Sub-T. Non-sleepers here. Hello. It's almost a snake head. Yeah, it needs work. And I mean, you're right. The reference is actually kind of snake lizard-esque as well. Look at those funny eyes. All right, I'm actually gonna just delete the eyes, or I'll just hide them for now, because we'll need to adjust those as well. Let's go ahead and add some of those claws in. I think I have a default clawed hand right now, somewhere in my, yeah, I do. Usually I always do these from scratch, but I realize it's the exact same process each time. It only takes like 30 seconds. So kind of save myself some time here. And now I just have some default claws that I made on one of my streams from last week. All right, we're gonna fit the thumbnail first. Very nice. And I can mask the rest of them and fit them up to this creature here. There we go. It's a nice adjustment to the silhouette here. Looking much more similar to the references I pulled up as well. Excellent. Mirror and weld, one step closer. Non-sleeper says, time for little hands. Not in this case, because I'm not changing it to a fist or anything like that. Just adding claws. I love that you guys can talk about it and anticipate that happening though. I'm gonna give these a nice dark color. Here we are. And let's go ahead and get some work done on the feet. So the feet are actually supposed to be more clawed, and this toe sits more on the inside. So let's go ahead and change that. Moving that here. I'm probably going to Z-remesh these two to make them a little easier to restructure. So I've got a Z-remesher with half turned on, and I'll lower the poly count of this. I like this darker color to match the nails too, so I'll go ahead and fill the object as well. There we go. And drag in a little bit of poly paint to kind of blend that in. Excellent. And then for the toenails, I'll probably just modify one of the claws that I have here. For this, I'm going to move in with Move Topological and move these toes around manually. Looking pretty carefully at my reference. That one's pretty off to the side. It doesn't have to be exact, but there we go. That's better. And then I'm missing some of the volume on top, so I'm going to blend that in by going into the foot here and my standard brush. There we are. All right, let's go ahead and block out these big long toenails. And then Voxel asks, do Slaads wear clothes? No, I don't believe so. I do not think they do. It feels funny to not have many clothes, but this one, I see Miguel gave them like a little leaf skirt, but most of them I saw did not. Well, we'll see what we want to do. All right, I'm duplicating these claws right here. I'm gonna just pick one. Let's go with that one. We're gonna move this down We're gonna start fashioning some of these toenails here. I want these to be pretty thick, so I'm actually going to mask the back half off and close holes. There we are. And stretch upwards. Excellent. I'm going to make these toenails even darker than the rest of the foot. About what I wanted. All right. Alright, the feet have improved quite a bit here. I'm going to add a little bit more volume to these toes as they blend into the foot. And then we'll kind of keep working on the body in bits and pieces here. I'm going to turn off perspective, mask the bottom of the feet, and start adjusting the volume here. I think it'd be nice if his feet had like a small curve upwards, and it's really important to be really clear and confident on where like the knee and the ankle and whatever this like second ankle, if you want to call it. All right, I'd say we've come pretty far since the beginning of the stream. I'm already really happy with how different this is looking, and it's really starting to resemble our references here. So right now I'm kind of just adding a bit more volume to the body here. Still finding my proportions and where I want everything to lay. Overall, we're off to a pretty strong start. I'm gonna go ahead and Dynamesh this head at a really low resolution, and let's see if I can find a shape that I like a bit better here. I think the open mouth is a big part of this model, so we're gonna go ahead and make a jaw for this. It's really important that the eyes and the tip of the nose are all on the same plane. It has a very, very flat head, which is different than this kind of like cute cartoon look that I made for my frog folk. All right, I've got one piece here. I'm gonna duplicate this, and now I'm gonna mask the jaw. So that way, if I decide to, and I probably will, I can actually sculpt the inside of his mouth and give him a couple different poses with his mouth. All of these are designed to be tabletop minis, so it's nice to have a lot of variation, especially with a model like this, because it's usually used for a mob of some sort. And then Taylor says, weekend stream? Yeah, I changed my schedule a bit, so I mentioned it a little bit throughout the week, but I now take Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, and I stream through the weekend instead. Just trying it out. Something a little different. It kind of takes a little better use of the fact that I work for myself, so now I can do a lot of like my errands and fun stuff in the middle of the weekdays, and I find that things are a lot less busy. Here we are. Non-Sleeper says, it's amazing watching you just casually drift over the base and define muscles and features. It's simple for you. I'm glad it looks easy. I've done it like hundreds of times literally, and I'm still learning a lot though, honestly. right, this is already looking a lot stronger than the head that I had just sitting here before. I also naturally made it a bit smaller, it looks like, and that's suiting the model a bit better. It does have a really wide connection to his back. There we go. So again, I'm always looking at my references and just kind of seeing where the landmarks are and like kind of like a construction guideline. It's really important that I keep this pretty snub-nosed, and then the nostrils and the eyes are on the same plane pretty much. That's another really big key for me to make sure that I'm on the right track. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my move brush and invert it to push in these forms here. There we go. Now I'm kind of checking to see how wide they should be. It's a little wider than my references, so let's put it in a little closer together. Very good. And then I have my standard brush to build up these big angry eyebrows. There we are. All right. His snout looks really goofy. I think it's just a little too wide. Actually a little too narrow. It needs to be pretty similar to the rest of the model here. There we go. That's more frog-like. It's coming along. It's happening. Hope you guys are having a good weekend so far. All right, there's the eyeballs I had from the beginning of the stream. Let's see if I can fit these in. I don't know if they're even really suit this model. They look ridiculous. Alright, where is my toy plastic? There we go. Yeah, we're gonna make the eyes just a dark color for now, and we'll worry about poly painting them later. He almost looks kind of sweet right now. And it's important that this bottom part of the jaw kind of connects to his chest. You can see right here, he has like that, you know, that inflatable like toad gullet thing. But I don't want anything getting too wide. I'm definitely getting close to that point. Let's go ahead and go on the bottom here and just trim dynamic and flatten this up. That's a common problem I have when I'm sculpting like birds, lizards, and snakes. I make the head get wider and taller, and it's not supposed to. There we go. Just scrunch that down. I'm gonna hide the eyes to make sure I don't accidentally build around the eyes, because I'm still kind of finding my forms and my shapes here. There we go. I got this really silly, like wide dished head. That's getting closer to what I'm wanting. And I think giving him a underbite is gonna be a big part of the characterization of this model as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Start building up the forms where the eye will be, and to do that, I'm gonna go with my standard brush and kind of just scribble on some circles here to kind of play with where I want that shape to be. Here we go. All right. Making improvements. I'm really happy with the body. I'm still trying to figure out where all the head landmarks are going to be. But I'm making good progress there too. So there's kind of like two big forms here that run towards the back of the head. Right here. That was kind of one of the construction lines I was missing. And he's got these big, overbearing, kind of like eyebrows as well. There we go. It's a bit more of that structure. I'm going to use Damn Standard to kind of block in where those nostrils would be roughly. And notice I'm saying very, very low poly. That kind of helps me keep track of my forms, not letting anything get too complicated or too lumpy. I also think adding in some teeth will be nice to work around. This is one of those models where it's really nice to add, like, the teeth will be a really nice accent point because I can make him kind of crooked and asymmetrical. It'll be nice detail. I'm gonna zero mesh these to be a little lower resolution. It's a little easier to deform. There we go. Couple teeth here. I'll be using these same teeth to add the spikes to the back because you can kind of see they have some spikes, kind of his elbows and his shoulders, that kind of stuff. I'll be using the same pieces for that. Went ahead and duplicated them. All right, so now I've got some little teeth sticking out. Excellent. Oh, Chris is here. Good evening. Or if here, good morning. Really depends where you're at. I mean, it's almost noon where I'm at, so it's becoming an afternoon, evening. All right, let's start building this face and around the eyes and whatnot. It's time to commit to some shapes. All right. One of the things that's gonna make this a little bit easier is if I have like some intermediate like flap connecting his mouth to his jaw. Go. Then some sort of tongue would be cool too. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go with my curved toothbrush and I'm just gonna draw a tongue in really quick. There we go. All right, let's construct this jaw a little bit more. And to do that, it's really important that you are building out the same forms that you would expect to see. So other than just like the tongue, you have like your gum line, and then there's a very like distinct divot that drops down like under your tongue, and that's apparent in most animals. So I want to make sure that's there as well. So to do that, I'm gonna go with my standard brush and build up the edge here with symmetry turned on. See how much better that looks? This is the before, this is the after. This is just like finding your shapes and not making it like, it's kind of like your secondary form within a subtool. There we go. Much better. Carving out where the eyes go by using the move brush, and then I'm doing the invert of it. So if you hold down Option, it'll actually push material away from the camera instead of bringing it towards it. I think his eyes are a little too far apart. Let's kind of measure here. This looks like 1, 2, 3, 4-ish eyes apart. 1, 2, 3. So they're actually not too far apart. They're just almost too big. Here we go. Cool. I like the taper to like this really wide neck, but it's also kind of confusing the front silhouette. So I'm gonna go in with Trim Dynamic and just kind of like flatten the sides. I recommend when you're having a hard time or just kind of exploring shapes, add a flat plane wherever you're not sure. Like I don't know what this side needs to say, so I'm just gonna simplify it to a plane. Bam, chopped it off. Now I can see that form so much more clearly. So this is the before, this is the after. Now I can kind of bevel that out, and I'm kind of unintentionally made a marker for where these cheekbones are gonna be. And now I'm getting a little bit more reoriented and stuff. I'm gonna open this jaw so it sits even further down, and then run in with the pinch brush. I'm pretty happy with the front view here, but I still need to work on the side. I need to bring these volumes forward, so I'm gonna run in with my move brush again. All right, looking pretty good. I think this is an IP that belongs to Dragonlance, I'm not quite sure. So I don't mind kind of taking my own artistic interpretations here a bit too. Kind of pushing it to be a little bit more monstrous than just straight Toad Man. I want to make sure that the nose and the eyes are pretty much on the same plane. So to do that, I can go from the side view kind of bring that volume up so we're on the same plane as the eyes, and then I can undercut from the bottom. I also need to go on the underside here and carve out some material here. Again, it's kind of the opposite of the lower jaw. But it's really important to have these shadows and these markers here so I can build on them later. There we are. Excellent. Really starting to find this face here. Took me a second, but it's all come together. Voxel says, not looking cute anymore. Thank you. That is the goal. I'm glad we're figuring that out. And Voxel says, by the way, last night I was using Nomad Sculpt web app and it can handle 10 million polys. It's pretty impressive. Very cool. I'm pretty sure that's free too, and if not, I think it's like 15 bucks on iPad. I should know because I'm 90% sure that I have it. I really only use ZBrush to sculpt professionally and produce works, but I'm always testing out different apps and different softwares, primarily so I can better help my students, because I have quite a few students that use Nomad and stuff like that, especially just to like try it out and see if they're even interested in learning how to sculpt. All right. Making a lot of good progress here. Voxel says it's a free demo that can be run through a web browser. That's awesome. That way it's not like a... kind of lowers the barrier for entry, which I'm all about that. All right, this deltoid is way too long. Let's go ahead and scoot it back up. All right. So it's gonna come... let's kind of block the shape out a little more clearly with my damn standard brush. There we go. Now they have some harder lines to follow. Now I can move it around a little easier. That also means building up more volume on the top of the bicep. Excellent. That's a bit better. I don't like how sunken in his pectoral muscles are, so let's add some more volume there as well by going in with the clay brush. The hard line that's perfectly horizontal to the floor is also a little jarring, so let's add a nice little curve there, just for some visual interest. There we go. Looking pretty good. I'm happy with this. All right, I think we're at a point where it's good to put another stamp on the stream here. It's kind of our second part of the storyboard. Right here. All right, excellent. Where are we at? We're just about an hour into the stream. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on a Saturday. Again, I'm just gonna try out this live stream on the weekend things for a couple weeks, see if I like it, see if I meet anyone new here, all that kind of good stuff. It also kind of depends. If it suits your guys' schedule better, let me know, because again, I work for myself, so I'm pretty flexible and I don't have too strong of a preference. If you're enjoying the stream, here, one sec, let me pause, make sure there's no ads. If you're enjoying the stream, like the stream. If you're really enjoying it, subscribe. My schedule is pretty consistent, but I have been trying out some new things. When in doubt, if you check in around 11 a.m. Eastern time, I'm either streaming or I'm not. My start time's always the same, no matter what day it is. Alrighty, I'm gonna take a quick little break and then I will be back. Probably about 5 minutes. It's 11:50 Eastern time. I'll be back at 11:55 a.m. East time. All right, be back in a little bit. Bye. For just a bit. So in this next bit here, I'm going to be detailing this mesh here and then getting a pose. I have a default pose here that I picked from the Pose Archives. Super good resource, highly recommend. One second, let me refresh my camera here. It has been a morning of technical difficulties, y'all. Most of that wasn't on stream. Most of that was before stream. Alright, there we go. Alrighty. Okay. And yeah, so to reiterate my stream schedule, I stream every single day except Tuesday, Wednesday. Always 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's a newer schedule though. I've only been streaming full time for, this is my 3rd week actually. So if you've been part of that, thanks for being part of it. Actually kind of a cool little update to share with y'all. So this channel's been pretty quiet. I've been putting a lot of attention to it until like this last month, and I've had a lot of fun streaming and hanging out with you guys, and it's actually paid off quite a bit. So this is my growth on the channel in the last 90 days, and you can tell pretty dramatically where I started live streaming again. So thank you guys for being part of that. I have a cute little confetti thing now. Thanks for being part of that, and I'm kind of excited to see where the channel grows, and yeah, kind of just what's next. Also, I've been talking about getting this confetti button forever, and I finally have it up and running. Very happy about that. All right, let's get back to sculpting. Alrighty here. Let me block in some of the last important details he's missing, which would be his eyeballs. Eyebrows and his nostrils. There we are. That's sweet. So yeah, there was a lot of technical difficulties this morning. My husband texted me. He's like, nope, everything looks and sounds good, no problem. Sweet. All right, let's go ahead and get these eyes blocked in. When you're doing like a bigger, spookier monster, you want the eyes to be smaller. You don't want it looking too cutesy. And then Voxel says, hell yeah. Yeah, I'm really happy about it. And thank you guys for the congratulations. I'm very happy to see the channel grow and stuff. And yeah, so this is gonna be a Scary Frog Man. My only frog that I sculpted before this was very cute. So we've done quite a few changes to get to where we are now. All right, another little trick here that I recommend when you're doing a monster like this is having these really thick eyelids. So go ahead and duplicate your sphere, solo, and then you're gonna mask and split a top and bottom eyelid here. There we go. Close holes, polish by features, and then a low resolution Dynamesh. And that's just kind of my trick. That's all I do to make eyelids. Really simple. There we go. And you can't see them right here because they're perfectly overlapped with the mesh. So just go in with your move brush and pull those forms down. This just adds a lot of really nice volume around the eyes, and it makes it much easier to kind of like pick an expression. So just like that here, it looks kind of sleepy. Highly recommend doing this. I do this for all my monsters now. There we go. Nice bit of depth there. I'm gonna go ahead and merge these eyelids down to the same subtool. All right. Excellent. Well, at this point, we can start subdividing the body here and getting some details in. I think really long teeth look silly on a toad, so there's gonna be like really little short stubby teeth tucked in here. And then I'll probably have a couple of these crooked teeth sticking out on the sides later on. Here we are. I'm tempted to taper this jaw right here, but the wideness of it is kind of what makes this look so toad-like, so I'm gonna keep that. All right, let's kind of run from the top down, get some detail on here. Let's subdivide a few times. Now that I have more polys to work with, I can start blocking in some secondary forms. To do that, I'm gonna have my clay brush, just kind of build up some forms here. Having like this heavy brow right here is a big characteristic of this model, so I want to make sure that I nail that. And they're a bit snub nosed, so instead of, yeah, having that flatten looks nice. There we go. I think I've pretty much nailed the front view here. The profile needs some work. I also don't have a lot of experience sculpting frogs, so it's just a bit of a learning experience. Probably add some spots later on. Before I get too far on this, I'm actually really happy with what I have. I don't know how we're at 5 million points. What in the world is so high res? Oh, I forgot. This is the head that we started with today. Pretty cute. Not fitting. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. And kind of searching for what is so high resolution. It might be the body. Oh yeah, because it already has some spots and stuff. That's what's so high res. Okay, we definitely don't need the highest res on that, so I'll bring that down one. All right, looks pretty good. I'm really happy with all the forms and the shapes here, that and direction it's going. And I know this is gonna be a really helpful mesh to have later, because I highly doubt this is gonna be the last frog man I ever make. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a subtool for me to use later. To do that, I'm gonna go to Tool, Save As, and I'm gonna put this in my Master Tools under Z Bodies, Animal Humanoids. And instead of being Frog Folk, we'll just call it a Monster Frog. There we go. And that's exactly how my asset library has formed over the years. Every time I make something that I'm like, huh, I could use this again. I make sure to save a copy of it, and there we go. It just kind of keeps iterating on itself. So yeah, this is an earlier point in the stream. This is before I just deleted the head and resculpted it from scratch. I'm really glad that I did that. Sometimes you have to decide whether or not like an asset's helping you or if it's better to just start from scratch. All right, and then this requester specifically asked for a Slaad, but it's like a draconian hybrid. So it's gonna have some dragon elements to it as well. So I have these little spooky wings I think would suit this model well. I'm deciding between the three up here. And these are all wings I've sculpted over the last years. I'm thinking this one will look the best. I'll actually go ahead and let you guys decide. Let me get both of these blocked out. And I can kind of go back and forth and kind of see what we think. I think it'd be nice to add some weathering to the wings either way, like some holes. So they're perfectly flat right now because they haven't been posed or detailed or anything like that. The ones on the left are definitely more interesting, but they're not going to weather as well if I put like holes in them and stuff. But I am curious, do you guys have a preference, whether it's the left wing here or the right? I think the left looks more impressive, but the right one, again, it's going to weather a lot better. So let's say if I put like kind of like tears in the webbing and whatnot. This is a more interesting silhouette and shape though. I'm trying to decide. And again, I can sculpt these, have whatever details or differences. All right, so far we have one vote for the weathered wing on the left. Yeah, it does have a better silhouette, and it's kind of suiting the spookiness here. I'm kind of leaning towards that as well. All right, we have 2 votes for the wing on the left. All right, I think that settles it. Left wing it is. And delete this one over here. And we're gonna work with this guy. Yeah, it's already so nicely weathered and detailed. Yeah, it's gonna suit this model really well. Let's add a really nice big curve on this. Thank you, Creative Hive Mind. I'm gonna add a bend arc deformer. Do a nice big swoop here. There we go. And I like the idea of the wings being kind of like arched and high on his back, just kind of like these little cranky ones. Oh, a 3rd vote for the left. Okay, awesome. So we're all on the same page. Excellent. Since you guys are being so helpful, I have one more question. What are we thinking about for the size of the wings? I like the one on the left again, but should we maybe pick like a even smaller wing, like a little goofy tiny wings? I think that could be fun too. Or what about if they were asymmetrical, like he had like a big wing and a small wing? Sometimes those can be fun details. Let me know what you guys think. As of right now, I think again, the left one is the better choice, but I'm also open to having like 2 tiny wings or maybe like this asymmetrical look. I think it's kind of goofy. It's kind of like it's like Finding Nemo-esque, you know? Makes him a little bit more endearing. While I leave y'all to think about that, I'm gonna get a little bit more detail on this body. Going with clay buildup and kind of adding some striations here. Non-Sleeper says, now we can add creative consultant to our business cards. Absolutely. And then Non-Sleeper says, larger left. Yeah, I think left is the winner again here. It can be nice to kind of like outsource the creative choices to y'all every now and then. Kind of gives my brain a break. Especially because trying to figure out the proportions. To transform this on the stream, go from this really cute model to this monster, definitely kind of had my brain in overdrive a little bit. So I'm kind of taking a little break right now. All right, we're saying left again. Yeah, sounds good, sounds good. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this funny little tiny wing and mirror and weld. Yeah, it's a pretty nice silhouette. I'm pretty happy with that. Very cool. Probably gonna push this out even further, have a nice swoop on this. All right. Nudge this over. Make sure it's going to connect to the body. I like to drag these lines straight down for the connection to the body because it makes it a much stronger 3D print and it's visually interesting. And there we go. Chris says, I want to say left one, but the combo is a nice idea. Maybe make the right one more weathered. There we go. That's how we'll bring back the asymmetry. That's a really good suggestion, Chris. So I'll make sure that if I do add some holes, maybe I'll just put some holes in one of the wings, but not the other. Good idea. So right here, I'm kind of coming through with this clay brush, adding some texturing and some like lumpiness to the body. The head definitely still needs some work and some structuring, but even if I didn't improve it a ton from where it is, I'm pretty satisfied with the overall look of the model and silhouette so far. I need to say that out loud to remind myself not to obsess on it later. All right, gonna bulk up the hands a bit more. Just kind of adding some streaks and some stronger bone structure. There we go. Excellent. So right now I'm going with Dam Standard and really pushing in some deep creases. Not like that. There we go. Some deep creases. These would be nice paint catchers, and it also just makes the model look a little more confidently sculpted. I can go ahead and build up some more forms that complement these lines I just kind of put in here. There we go. I do have the outline of collarbones here. They're just really hard to see since he has this gigantic head that's so low on his shoulders. Having them blocked out is still a nice touch to have though. There we go. Just lower that. And then add some hollowness there. All right, there we are. And then Non-Sleeper asked, do you tend to use more Dam Standard or Alt Dam Standard instead of clay buildup? Is that because it makes better forms? Yeah, I don't use clay buildup very much. I used to a lot earlier in my sculpting career. But as of now, it really just depends what I'm using it for. When I'm adding volume, I use just the normal clay brush. I do not use Dam Standard or Alt Dam Standard to build up forms. I use it to define forms. And ultimately, you could use either brush. They're just fine. That's just a personal preference. All right, I like this kind of lumpy texture on the model so far. Let's go ahead and give the same treatment on his legs. I'm a little more clear on where these muscles are, so this will be a little quicker and easier for me. His little frog butt cracks me up. I'll build up quite a bit of material connecting to his wings too. And for these monsters, I like to not smooth out these forms and kind of just leave it rough and lumpy. It paints up really nice and adds a little bit of visual interest too. Very nice. All right, let's remove all the poly paint for a second here, and let's kind of look at what we're looking at. I think it's time to spend a little more time on the head again. All right, I'm gonna smooth out the tongue. That looks better. I like that shape better. And then this jaw needs a little bit of attention. I'm mostly fixated on the front view of the model here. So to do this, I'm going to improve the shape by grabbing my mask lasso brush and just rotating on the sides here. I'm actually gonna use a transpose line instead. There we go. Just rotating this in to kind of like fit his jaw better to his face. There we are. And like always, if you guys are hanging out, have any questions, let me know. no question is too basic. In addition to like selling free printable files and stuff, I also teach. So I'm used to all kinds of questions all the time. And if I didn't like answering questions, I wouldn't teach. Especially like really complicated questions. I like answering those because it can be a nice challenge for me to try to figure out how to explain something that's so like complicated and convoluted and like very clear and concrete terms. That's been challenging because sometimes like in the beginning when I started teaching my students, like they would submit work and of course they want feedback, right? And I can't help but look and be like, just sculpt it but better. I'm like, no, I'm a teacher, I have to do much better than that. So over the years I've gotten much better at like very concrete, being like, hey, you need to build up this form here, I can take a sketch over or that kind of stuff. Non-sleepers being very sweet. Reminding y'all, if you like the stream, like it, and if you really like it, subscribe. Alright, let's go ahead and I really want this face to have a little bit more visual interest going on. There's some pretty good landmarks forming in the jaw right here. Let's go ahead and make these forms a little bit more confident with the damp standard brush. I'm really going to undercut this jaw here and then bring up that bone. There we go. Excellent. I'm going to move in with the damp standard brush again and really start to find the forms on the face. You have to be careful here, especially around the eyes, because it's really going to change the expression and the personality. There we are. I think this would be a nice little spot for some interesting kind of like webbing texture. And it makes sense to me too, because that'd have to be kind of like a flexible spot in order to let him hinge and open his mouth open and close. Let's go ahead and scoot his nose a little closer together. Right now I'm going to go with my move brush. I'm kind of just pushing some shapes around and seeing if I stumble across something that I like. Oh, I kind of like that. Sometimes you don't need all the answers, you just need to know how to keep playing with the model until you find the shape that you want. I think having a strong muscle on the side of his neck would also be a nice touch. Non-sleeper says, nice paint catchers. Thank you. Everything that I sculpt on stream is designed to be 3D printed, so it's really important that these are going to paint up nicely. You could paint a model that's mostly smooth, but it's so much easier when you have really, really clear defining lines. All right, I like it. Coming out really well. Let's get a little bit more detail on these toes. we go, looks nice. And it's about time to start adding some like this ridge and scaling detail. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that. I'm gonna raise his tongue up just a bit. And I think it'd also be interesting if the bottom of his jaw kind of had like this rich texture, the same way like the roof of your mouth does. So to do that, it'd be a small detail, but you will see it when you paint the mouth. So I'm gonna kind of like just hash these in really quick and just see if I like it. There we go. Yeah, I like that. Excellent. All right, let's add some spikes to this model now. There's actually a really nice default chisel creature brush. So let's see if that's gonna work for what we need. If not, we can just do some hand sculpting. Might need to lower the Z intensity a bit. And I'm doing this out of symmetry. I think it's gonna work better on his back. I like that, so we'll get a little bit of texture there. I don't think I want too much on his head. We can do like these ridges and these scales here, but for the most part, I like to have like just that flat, classic. Yeah. Turn poly paint back on. Very cool. Alexander's here. Hello. Looking great. Pretty sure you were the guy who requested this. So thank you so much, both for the support on Patreon and for the super cool model request. We've come on quite a journey so far. We started, this is that really cute frog folk that I released a couple months ago. And so I kept the base mesh for that. And now I have to go through here and figure out how to make him look like this. And I'm figuring it out. It's happening. All right, I want some more of these small ridge details. Again, just like some nice little paint catchers. I also think it'd be nice to have them be asymmetrical details. Just some little scales and ridges. There we go. And that gives it a bit more of that draconic look, which this is supposed to be a hybrid. So I want to pull on the edge of this collarbone here too. Also emphasize that. There we go. All right, it's really starting to get the silhouette that I want here. Excellent. Oh, this is gonna be really cool. Ricky says, this is looking so cool. Thank you. Yeah, non-sleeper, same. I'm really happy with how this shape's coming out here. And yes, are the requester, and tomorrow I'm doing the skeleton dragon, which is also requested from the same person. That will be a really good challenging one. So this is kind of where we're at with this request board right now. This is what I'm working on today. And then this will be tomorrow. I'm actually giving myself 2 days to work on this one because it's a much more complicated model. So that'll be our Sunday and Monday stream. Pretty excited about that. I might even need to do a little bit of prep off stream to make sure that actually happens in 2 streams. But I'm really excited about this. If you guys have ideas of things you want me to sculpt, that's totally an option. Everything I sculpt on stream is a Patreon request. So yeah. All right, let's keep on going. All right, let's add a little bit more poly paint to this model. It needs a little bit more definition and shading. One of my favorite tricks to do that is having the paintbrush change to drag rectangle and backface mask enabled. So it kind of just, it only grabs onto like the edges. It's pretty neat. I'll show you guys. It's one of those things that's a little easier to see. I'm gonna turn the Z intensity up really high. I might need to even change my material here. Here we go. There we go. So I see how it kind of like only grabs on some of the ridges here. If I don't have backface mask enabled, it will just paint the entire thing. So yeah, it's kind of a nice little trick. Here we go. Really shade those eyes, get some interesting depth in there. And then we're gonna go from the bottom of the model, lower the the RGB intensity, and give some undershade too. There we go. Much better. Painting the model digitally does not affect the finished 3D printed model. It's just fun for me, and sometimes I use it as a reference when I actually paint them in real life. All right, gonna highlight the wings a bit here. Excellent. All right, we're just about ready to pose. We're gonna change the material back to one more familiar with. Let's go ahead and try just basic material. I wanna make sure that the texture here isn't obscuring any details. Having the toy plastic is fun because it gives like that wet frog texture to it, but it's a little easier to see like this. I'm a big fan of poly skin. This is a great matte cap that really like you can see all those like crevices and details and shadows. I'm gonna pull out some of the forms in his pectoral muscles just a bit more. Anything by the head usually ends up being a bit of a focal point, whether it's intentional or not. So it's always a good place to, if you're thinking of adding more detail, just add more detail. All right, looking good. I think we're ready to give this guy a pose. So I'm gonna make sure that all of my subtools are where they belong. There's no floating eyeballs like that. I'm gonna go ahead and merge all the different pieces of the eye. Looking good. I can actually probably add another ridge to the bottom of this. There we go. Nice little detail. All right, I think we're all set. like the polyskin material in this a bit better actually. The colors are a bit more interesting. So we'll go ahead and pose with that material turned on. Now I'm going to go to Z plugin and Transpose Master. That will allow me to move the entire model instead of just one piece at a time. This has been a really good time. Thank you guys for hanging out on a Saturday with me. It's my first weekend stream. So in this part of the live stream, now we're going to make sure that all the poses are proportions where we want them, and then move on to the pose. Because changing the proportions once your model is out of symmetry is really tedious. You can do it, but there's no point in moving each arm independently. Just change the size at the same time. So we're actually going to do that right now. The forearm here can be a bit longer, so increase the size just a touch. So that's the before, that's the after. It seems pretty minor, but it's really going to give this model a more lanky, monstrous look. All right, and now I'm going to look at this reference here and roughly block out this pose. I like posing the legs first. I find it easier to unbalance the model and then come back in and balance the shoulders on top of it. Oh, before we get too far, I should probably add a stamp of this. Nah, that's fine. I try to like storyboard as I go, so if someone just joins the stream, they can see what's going on, where we started, where we're going. But this is fine. And then Sen says lurk, but yeah, there's no commands on YouTube, but I appreciate you hanging out. I'm just here working. It's a nice little vibe. And then, let's see, Non-Sleeper says, we enjoy our time with you. You make time fly and show us so much. You probably don't realize how much this encourages us. Thank you. Yeah, of course. So Non-Sleeper is one of my students, and I've been teaching them for a while. They've been on a bit of a break, but I think they're going to come back pretty soon here. And yeah, it's just a good time. I'm glad that this is enjoyable for you guys too. And then Ricky responding to Non-Sleeper. Ricky is currently working on some super top secret stuff, which is renders, graphics, and emails. Very exciting. All right, let's go ahead and move this leg over. It's a little tricky because my reference here is obviously a human man with normal legs, and I am dealing with these monster legs here, so translating that pose is a little tricky. But totally doable. I'm really happy with how the feet turned out. I'm being very careful to make sure that these are going to be flat. I offer all my models on a decorative base, but I offer a no base version as well. So it's nice when the model is perfectly flat, so you can put it on whatever base that you like. All right, making sure we're moving this leg forward quite a bit, but not breaking it out of his hip socket. You'll notice I'm very careful when I'm masking. I want to get as close to that joint as possible, so there's as little deformation as possible. Whenever you pose a model, you're always going to have to resculpt in a couple details because it's going to distort some pieces of your model. But if you're careful, you don't have to do too much resculpting. I used to struggle with posing so much when I first started learning how to sculpt. It just seemed like an absolute mystery to me. I didn't know how to use the software, and I didn't know how anything moved, so it was quite the uphill battle. Over the years, I've sculpted almost 1,000 characters and creatures now, so I've learned a thing or two through lots and lots of practice. I do think it's sweet though when I have students ask me like, oh, like how do I get better at anatomy? How do I learn anatomy? And I'm like, anatomy is a big topic. pick a body part, pick like an arm, and just focus on that for a week, and then try to stitch everything together. I also find doing like freehand sketches of just like line of action poses is really helpful too. All right, you have a pretty nice lean here. Let's go ahead and counteract that with the top of the body. So you don't want him to look like he's falling over. Also really important if you're making a dynamic pose, which you usually want to make a dynamic pose, the angle of the hips and the angle of the shoulders should be offset. So you can kind of think of it as like you're pinching to one side or the other. That concept is called contrapposto. That's a fancy, if I'm even pronouncing it correctly, but that's a fancy term for it. Just think pinch to the left or pinch to the right. It will kind of like disrupt the balance and it will make it not look so stiff. And I'm turning perspective on and off as well. And that's just to make sure the model is looking good with and without lens distortion. It's really important to check both because, again, without perspective, it's like also orthographic view. I can make sure that the model lines up flat on the base, but we don't see an orthographic view. We see in 3D, and there will be distortion. So when you're looking at this in real life, whatever is closer to you looks like it's bigger, right? So it's important to consider both views. All right, let's go ahead and move the head. To do that, I'm gonna mask all of these pieces together, move the hinge point all the way to the base of his neck, and we're gonna turn him over. I do think he looks better from the front straight on than from the side, but luckily it's a 3D model, so I don't have to be too concerned about this being his best angle. You can just rotate him. So as you can tell, like some people I notice, they've watched my streams, they look at my references here, and they're like, okay, it's similar, but you change so much. If you're not gonna like copy your references or really take cues from, what's the point of them? They're just like guidelines. I'm not gonna copy this pose exactly the same way that my creature doesn't look exactly the same here. But I don't know what it looks like just imagining it in my head. So it's always better to work with references and things you kind of keep your design rooted, as opposed to letting your brain make every single decision. You're already going to be making a ton of artistic decisions, and you want them to be as consistent as possible. Also, this doesn't happen often, artists don't say this, but every now and then non-creators will say that using references is cheating. That's crazy. If you are an artist and you're learning, please use references, please. You're not expected to know what everything looks like from memory and all at the given times. That's crazy. So these long fingers will actually be somewhat tricky to 3D print. There's a few things I'm going to be doing to make that better. One, I'm going to have this nail here actually touching the bottom part of his jaw. And then I'm actually gonna like mittenify these fingers and slowly bring them together. But we won't be doing that until we're at a transpose master. This is 3D printable as it is, but it's a little bit of a pain, so I like to make it as easy as possible. All right, so now our job with this other arm here is to balance out the pose. So we're gonna mask this arm. This is going really quickly. It's gonna be a bit of a shorter stream for my first weekend stream. But thank you dearly for hanging out and spending your Saturday morning or evening with me, depending where you are. If you're enjoying the stream, leave a like. It really makes a big difference. It makes the YouTube gods happy. If you're really having a good time, I encourage you to subscribe. I have a pretty consistent schedule, but it's easier to just let YouTube remind you instead of trying to remember like, what day is it? When did you stream? If you're anything like me, you follow a lot of different creators and there's no way I can remember all their schedules. Awesome. This looks pretty darn good. I should probably even say what my schedule is for people that are new and for people that are currently here because I changed it recently. I stream every day at 11 a.m. Eastern time except for Tuesday, Wednesday. So you can think of that as Thursday through Monday, but I find that a really weird way to think of it. I think it's easier just to say that it is. Sorry, thinking. All right, that's every day but Tuesday, Wednesday. Oh, Rusted Friend is here. Hello, you're new, welcome. And you say, since slaads are kind of froggy, I'd also consider giving him some amount of webbing between the fingers. Ooh. Both for the theme and making the hands more easily printable. That's brilliant. Wow, you really came in here and just immediately made a fantastic suggestion as your first comment. I'm gonna do that. That's better than mittenifying, and it's super on theme too. Thank you, Rusted. Or will I call you friend, because that was a very helpful suggestion. I call you friend. Thank you. And then Nerd mentioned, it's great to watch stream while I do chores. Well, I'm glad. Make it a little bit less boring. And then Voxel mentions my comments earlier about references. References are to keep you from migrating your design towards error. Absolutely, and that's also why it's very important that you have really strong references. I used to, I laugh saying this, I used to have my pose references were always 2D illustrations. And it was a nightmare because I didn't realize how many corners some artists will cut, but it's like a beautiful pose, right? But you don't realize it's not possible until you try to translate it into 3D. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this isn't possible. So I recommend if you're doing pose references for 3D, find a real human that's doing a pose like I did here and take a picture. If you can correct, you have a good understanding of anatomy, you can correct those errors yourself. I don't. I'm still working on it, so I need real people. And then Ricky says, we give free Cybertrucks to everyone that subscribes. No, we do not. Taylor says, I left for a while, so you'll have to catch up to speed. Is this a gargoyle? It's actually a Slaad. So Slaads are from, I think the Dragonlance World campaign series. They're kind of like big frogs. I have a reference over here. This one specifically that I'm making is actually a Draconian Slaad hybrid. That's what the requester asked for. So he's a little dragony, he's pretty froggy. He's got those digitigrade legs. He's whatever you want him to be, but he totally looks kind of gargoyle right now, and I do quite like that. And Friend says, yep, you happen to be streaming while I was cleaning the kitchen and making pancakes. Oh, that sounds so nice. I might make pancakes after this stream. You guys are really cheering me up. I don't know if it was apparent, but I had a not great morning. I was so excited to stream, and I was super early. I actually had an hour before the stream started, and nothing was working. My mic completely stopped working, my webcam was all glitched out, and I've been streaming for 3 weeks now with no errors. And then my husband went to a car show this morning, so it was just me trying to figure out these dumb tech problems with my tired morning brain. Oh, I was so crappy. I was like swearing up a storm over here. And I start the stream and I'm like, hi, good morning. I did not feel happy this morning, but I really feel like that's turning around. So thanks, that's a big part of that is you guys, so thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm gonna go add webbing to the hands now because that was a really good idea. And it also makes the Slaad a bit more my design too. Again, I want to follow what the requester asked for, but I also don't want to just like copy it because it's not my IP. And then Ricky says, ooh, I want pancakes. Yeah, I might make them afterwards. So for any of y'all that's new, Ricky is my husband. M3DM is short for Mia's 3D models, but it's actually the two of us. He does literally everything for the business except the literal sculpting of models, and even then, he actually does quite a bit in helping me design some creatures. All right, let's add some webbing to the hands here. And to do that, I'm just gonna throw in a little cube. Swoop. I like this pose because he kind of looks like he's giggling, but like creeping towards you, but laughing. I don't know, he's just a funny little guy. Alrighty. But yeah, I haven't talked about myself as much as I usually do on these streams, and kind of what's going on and stuff, but this is what I do for a living. I make 3D printable models. They're usually for tabletop. That's what the majority of my audience on Patreon supports me for. That being said, I've had people print my models as bathroom decor, wedding presents, all kinds of stuff. There we go, we got one web in here. And then Non-Sleeper says, Ricky will make you pancakes for lunch. And then Ricky mentioned she doesn't like my cooking. Oh. Then Ricky, shut up. I like my husband's cooking. He's come a long way from making cereal in the morning cooking. He's a really, really good barbecue guy. Like if you want something grilled up, Ricky can make a mean tri-tip. But if you ask him to like do anything else, it might just be a little more on the flavorful side that you weren't anticipating. Oh my goodness. One time, I think I was sick or something and I was really wanting shrimp pasta, so I tried to walk Ricky through making shrimp pasta and I couldn't remember. He was like, oh, how much salt do you add? I'm like, I don't know, like a pinch. He's like, what's a pinch? I'm like, I don't know, like a teaspoon. A teaspoon is a lot of salt. That was a terrible idea. It came out terrible. We get the moment, I think we were both kind of mad, but after like 5 minutes, it was just funny. I think we went and got like McDonald's nuggets after that. I'm just laughing thinking about that memory. Oh, but onto what I was saying earlier too, because I forget the whole point of these streams. So I can hang out with y'all, but also tell new people who I am, what I do. So my name is Mia. If you want models to 3D print, I got you. I have a Patreon for that. I don't do monthly releases. I release stuff pretty much every day, and then I release my entire backlog at once. So if you support me on Patreon, you get access to every model I've ever made all at once. I realize it's not the most nickel and dime brilliant marketing business plan, but I just don't feel the need to break my models down into monthly releases. It's just a lot of organization on my part, and I find most D&D campaigns require a diverse amount of models, so I find it's best just to share my entire library all the time. If you're not interested in 3D printing, but instead you want to learn how to make your own creatures and characters, I also teach how to sculpt too. All the links for that are always in the description, but this is the first time during the stream that I've mentioned specifically what I do. But yeah, that's me. Been doing this full time since 2019. I always thought I was going to have a normal job, specifically in industry and engineering, but this really took off, so as long as y'all will have me, I'm going to work as a full-time freelance artist. It's been really lovely. And it really helps because Ricky and I are not big spenders, so it has been a very easy adjustment when we first started going from a normal paycheck to what we do now. There we go. And then Taylor says, how about a devilish forked tongue? Oh, I could do that. So to make this tongue forked, all you have to do, make sure you have no subdivision levels, grab your mask lasso brush, and let's take a little cut out here. Hide that mask, delete what's hidden, and close holes. Voila! Spooky forked tongue. That fits the draconic theme very well here. Also, I appreciate the suggestion much more than your suggestions yesterday, Taylor. Yesterday, your suggestions were a lot of work. They were so good though, so I felt like I had to do them. But yeah, that is super easy. Bam, now we have a forked tongue. And yeah, if you guys ever have like creative ideas that you want to share while I'm streaming, feel free to do so. I don't feel pressure to take them. If I don't feel like doing it, I'll just say no thank you. There's no hurt in contributing your creative ideas to the creative hive here. Always welcome. The only thing that I've ever found annoying on live streams is when I have just started a model. So at the beginning of the stream, I started this, right? Some years ago, when I didn't stream very often, I'd have people that I didn't know, like, just tune in and be like, he looks too friendly. I'm like, I just started streaming. Like, he's not done. He's not done. But if you're making suggestions, like, especially at this stage of the sculpt where I have most of the forms blocked out, and you're suggesting really solid stuff like webbed fingers or a forked tongue, oh, I'm super welcome to that. And even if you do make a suggestion that's kind of like dumb or annoying, it's not a big deal. I'm not gonna like ban you. All right, let's go ahead and bend this up. Posing the wings is a really important part too. They're already pretty solid. I can use this to make him look even more hunched over. Yeah, I kind of like that. Earlier in this stream, I actually had you guys help me pick which wing to create, and that was really helpful. All right, let's make sure we add the webbing to the other hand as well. And let's go ahead and also inflate it a bit and zero mesh with half because it's a little lumpy looking, which is fine, but still. Let me catch up in the chat here. And then friend says, now I'm imagining a Slaad catching a passing fairy dragon, like a large dragonfly, grabbing it with a long forked tongue. Oh, that's horrifying and so funny. Here, let me show you guys this. And then Taylor suggests maybe a double chin, as if his tongue is backed up in his throat, ready to pop. I might do that. We'll see. That's a little more work. That's a really good suggestion though. But about the fairy dragon, I have to show this to you guys. So I made a fairy dragon a long time ago, and then earlier this year I did a baby beast collection. I've actually done a collection before, so this is my volume 2. And one of the stretch goals for this Kickstarter was a baby fairy dragon. And it came out so cute, and now that you brought it up, I'm like, oh, this poor little thing would get eaten by this Slaad. My main factory is acting like I've never sculpted this before. Don't be like this. You know it's real. I know it's real. 1 second. Here we go. That took way too long, but I finally found it. Yeah, so this is the baby fairy dragon I sculpted earlier this year, and friend, as soon as you said that, like, I can imagining like him eating like a little passing fairy dragon. He wouldn't be big enough to eat an entire fairy dragon full grown, but he would definitely be big enough to eat a baby fairy dragon. So, yeah. If you like this model and want to 3D print it yourself, it's on my May Factory. It's also on Patreon. Patreon's a much better deal, but I understand if you just want a couple one-offs, this works too. And then Matthew is here. Matthew Cooper, morning, afternoon, and evening. Awesome, I think you're new, so hi and welcome. And then Taylor asks, where can I buy/download your spicy art sculpts? Oh yes, I also do that. That's also on my Mini Factory. So if you go to my Mini Factory and type in spicy arts, that will be there. Kind of a fun side note, I also do female pinup models. Very classy, very tasteful though. All right, let's get some webbing on the other hand here. Oh, I haven't saved this. Let's go ahead and save. This is not gonna be a Slaad because I do not own that IP. It will be a monster frog. Monstrous frog. What should I call this? Oh, frog monstrosity. I'm trying to think what would be easiest to search. I mean, monstrosity is a big category in D&D. All right, duplicate this. I'm gonna mirror this webbing to the other hand. And we're gonna just carefully move this into place. The hands should be identical, so these should line up. If not, I can do a couple of fine variations with my move brush. Excellent, and that really stabilizes the hands too. There we are. Excellent. Taylor says, abomination should be a category. It should be, but it is not. Whenever I hear abomination, I always think of the Dragon Age series. I mean, I'm pretty happy with all the different categories for monsters and D&D, but I find a lot of them get lopped into monstrosity. I feel like I wish more of them would break into like aberration and fiend. But then some of them are fiend I don't expect to be fiend. Like anything devil or demonic is under fiend. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really think of it that way, but I guess. All right, this is just about done. I'm gonna start post-processing it. And as a thank you for you guys hanging out with me on stream, I'm gonna be sharing the 3D printable model for free. If you're watching in the future, it's not free. But if you support me on Patreon, you get this one plus about 850 other ones. So yeah. All right, we're gonna do a little spin here to make sure everything is looking good. I'm gonna pull that wing down on this side a bit more. Then I flip to the underside of the wing too. And go in with back face mask and just add a little bit more volume here. These wings are pretty thick and I've already 3D printed these, so they're really solid, but it doesn't hurt to add more volume. Especially if it's somewhere in the model that's not going to be affecting the silhouette. I find more material is better. I'm always dropping my 3D prints too, so I really try to make them as sturdy as possible. So I'm gonna go on the underside of the claws here and just double these up. There we go. Much beefier. And it pretty much looks the same visually too. All right, excellent. Okay, I forgot his little frog butt got a little screwed up. Let's fix his little frog butt. Put that back where it needs to go. There we go. So I'm just carefully moving the move brush here. There we go. Does not need to be a beautiful butt, but it was a little too goofed up. All right. Little frog butt is back intact. And now we start post-processing. Before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and give a stamp on the screen here. And we've come a long way on this live stream so far. So if you're just tuning in or if you're just new to how I do this stuff, I make a new model start to finish on pretty much every live stream. Occasionally I need to do 2 live streams to finish a model, like if it's a big dragon or something. But for the most part, something is finished. And I do little stamps on my screen as I make big progress points. So we started with this space mesh because I had previously sculpted a frog and I'm like, how different could they be? I might as well have sculpted from scratch. My goodness. We ended up here and now here. And then Taylor says this frog needs to do some squats. Yeah, he does have a tiny butt compared to the rest of his body, doesn't he? I'm not going to spend time sculpting a bigger butt on a frog. I do need to beef up his triceps a little bit though. So I'm going to add some more material here by using move and back face mask. And there we go. I'm I'm actually flabbergasted at how good this model turned out. I'm a good artist. I just, again, this morning was just not my morning, y'all. But it's gotten a lot better. So thanks for being a part of it and hanging out with me on this Saturday morning. I guess afternoon now. The forked tongue was a really good call, Taylor. All right, let's see how this mesh is looking. No mesh errors, my favorite. And now I'll come in and decimate this. It's currently at 4 million points. You can 3D print really bulky files like that, but there's just literally no need to. It makes your slicer take forever. So I go ahead and crush that down and then make sure there's no holes, mesh errors, or any funny business. Reminder that if you're liking the stream, leave a like, and if you really like the stream, subscribe. I do this all the time. That's the easiest way to find me again. After we're done post-processing this, we're going to do some last checks in Mesh Mixer, which is a very outdated software, but it gets the job done. But in case you're like, oh, I want to use the same tools as Mia, and you try to look up Mesh Mixer, it's not supported anymore. I think there's still a Windows download. The Mac download is like lost to the abyss. I don't even know where I found mine. It's not a unique software though, you don't even need to use it. You can use like 3D Builder, or you can just trust what you did in ZBrush. I just like having my 3D programs cross-reference each other. I find they pick up different errors sometimes. All right, looks good. And we still have a lot of distinct pieces here. So we're gonna go ahead and remesh by union. What this does is for any pieces of the mesh that are intersecting, it's going to make it solid in one continuous mesh, not two meshes that are overlapping. So now that's one solid piece. I'm gonna delete any artifacts or any funny business, and we're gonna decimate this down even further. You don't wanna make it too small of a file size, otherwise it comes across as very pixelated, and you don't want that either. Especially after you spent time putting all this nice detail in here. So I'm just going through all my subtools and making sure they're all merged down. When you remesh by union, make sure you do not have symmetry turned on. If you do, it will glitch your entire mesh, and try to make it symmetrical. I find that somewhere around 250,000 points is usually perfect for miniatures. You get a ton of detail on there still, and it doesn't take too long to slice. The wings are pretty high res, so we're going to handle these wings by themselves. I thought about adding some weathering to the wings and maybe adding some holes, but now that the model is finished, I think it's really solid without it. Make these hooks here a little bit thicker, especially from this profile view. There we are. Excellent. All right, this is our last stage here. We're going to mesh the wings into the body. We're going to double check, make sure it's flat, put it in Mesh Mixer, and I'll be sharing this file with y'all for free. It's only gonna be free and uploaded for about 5 minutes. So if you want it, go get it. I'll let you know when that's ready. I stream 5 days a week, so if y'all are diligent, you could probably end up with a pretty decent 3D printable library of my work for free. So right now I'm flattening the feet, like I mentioned earlier. And to do that, I just paint a mask in here. Stretch it straight down and then clip it. There we go. Excellent. Let's do a little spin here. Lovely. Creepy little guy. All right, I'm gonna zoom in more and just double check that we're not losing too much resolution. Again, 250 is kind of a good starting point for me. Looks good. There's pretty much no perceptible difference. We'll leave it there. One more close holes and remesh by union. And then we'll do a couple checks to make sure there's no mesh errors. ZBrush says it's squeaky clean, but we'll go ahead and verify that in Mesh Mixer. All right, we're gonna copy this tool and now paste it in my end ZPR to make sure that the scale is correct. So I designed myself for 28mm scale, but the cool thing about 3D printable models, and really any model that you sculpt, is you can actually scale it up to whatever size that you like. And for y'all that aren't as familiar with tabletop scale, this is about a 28mm scale model. This is like an Eldritch Hag that I sculpted a while back. It's only half painted, but you can also print these models really tall and really big. Like for example, I have a giant one here. This is like 72mm scale. So yeah, kind of do whatever we want with it. All right, Non-Sleeper says, so lovely. Thank you very much. All right, Chad, a bit off topic, so I apologize, but the sound of your dog snoring in the background occasionally makes it seem like it's from the model snore growling mix type sound. Okay, so you guys can hear that. Yeah, that is my pug sleeping behind us. He's been asleep the whole stream, hasn't he? But I like that. Yeah, I've got some ambient effects here. And then Dragon's Dream 3D says, looking good. I think you're also new. Hi and welcome. Thanks for being here. Chris says, what's the most common height for a human figure in D&D? I think from foot to eye level, like the base of their foot to the top of their head would be about 32mm. In 28mm scale, it's from foot to eye level. But if they have really tall hair or something, that's why they measure to eye level and not to the top of the model. So yeah, something around this size is very, very common. Which, what is this? Like an inch and a half or so? And then Ricky says, we need a pug cam. We do. He's just being really cute back there. All right, so for monsters, I just really kind of make them as big as I want, as long as they fit on the base. For playable characters, it's really important that you don't have overhanging elements like this, because then it's really hard to move across the board. But for a monster, I can be a little looser on that. So I'm gonna go ahead and import one of the custom bases I made over the years. I just sculpt these whenever I need a different terrain. I'm gonna want something, dirt, rocks, that kind of thing. Kind of just shopping through these. Flames and skulls doesn't seem quite right. Nothing elliptical. I've been using this base a lot recently. It works for a lot of my monsters. It's almost done loading in. Here we go. Just something really simple. Yeah, that's gonna look really good. Chris says, thank you. And Fred says, a pug would actually be decent Slaad reference. It's got mostly the right base shape and folds. It really does, doesn't it? Once I'm done with this model, I'll pick Maverick up. My pug's name is Maverick, and I'll have him on stream for y'all. I'm so close to being finished, so let me get this buttoned up and shared with y'all before I get too distracted. So right now I'm just checking that all of his feet are embedded in the base somewhere. I can always turn on transparency mode and make sure the mesh is inside. Very good. All right, export this, download. I don't know why it's exporting with polypaint. It doesn't need to do that. All right. When I was a kid, I grew up with 2 German Shepherds. They were fantastic dogs. And I always swore I'd never have a pug because they're not dogs. And now I have one, and he's awesome. He is just the best little bugger. All right, here he is. Looks like we had a couple tiny mesh errors in the wings. Super minor, they cleaned right up. And we're gonna call this a frog monstrosity. Could probably call it a toad monstrosity. We're just gonna go with frog for right now. If y'all want to name it something different, you can name it whatever you want on your computer. Alright, I'm uploading the files right now, and the moment that they're done, I'll go ahead and share them with y'all. If you're new to 3D printing, just a reminder that you cannot just put this on your 3D printer and just click print. You need to put supports on it. If you don't know how to support your models, again, I recommend during my Patreon, I print all of my stuff. Every model I have off screen here, like this unicorn, all kinds of stuff. This is Baylor. I sculpted and printed and painted all of these. And then the pre-supported files that I use and they succeed, that's the exact same files I share with y'all. Alrighty. Dark Frog from Frog and Toad. Oh my goodness, I forgot about those. Alright. Alright, there you go. Free download link. Thanks for being here. Chris says, thanks for sharing awesome sculpting as always. Thank you, Chris. You've become quite the regular. Alright, we're gonna jump back over here where we have our progress stages shared. And that kind of wraps up the stream. I'm gonna hang out with y'all for just a bit. It's kind of a shorter stream. Usually I'm about 3 hours. And I'm gonna do 2 things here. First, gonna make my camera a bit bigger, okay. And then second, I'm gonna go get my dog, who is still asleep, but he's been asleep for hours. He can wake up. Hello, small baby. Oh my goodness, so tired. Oh my gosh, you are heavy. Here is Maverick. He's a black pug. He's stinky too. He's very tired. He doesn't want to be here. He's gonna turn 4 next year, I think. He actually has the same birthday as my husband, March 14th, Pi Day. And that's not like his gotcha day. We actually got him in April, but his actual birthday was March 14th. March 14th? Is that your birthday? He's a good man. And then Sent says, woo, thanks for sharing. You're welcome. Enjoy the file. And my dog. God, you do smell rank. Wow. You need bath. Yeah, you're really cooking in there. Arch says, a custom base with room for a small speaker is a cool idea I've never considered till now. Never would have guessed a pug would give me the idea for table play. Second PogCamp, yes, great model. Thank you guys. I know, is this just not where you want to be? You're so fussy. Look at that big yawn. Oh my goodness. That was a big one. I'll probably put him down soon. He does not want to be here at all. Thanks for being on camera, boo. You're not internet famous. Internet famous? Do you want... Alright, that pretty much wraps up the stream. If you guys had a good time, like the stream. If you really had a good time, subscribe. It's the easiest way to keep track of what I'm doing and hang out again. Oh, I also want to let you guys know, now that you all are here, kind of a cool thing. So this is the channel growth in the last 3 months. You can see very obviously when I started live streaming. So, confetti for that. Thanks for being a part of it. The channel has grown immensely in the last 30 days. It was literally flatlining because I wasn't doing a whole lot on the channel. Another big yawn. Okay, I'm gonna put him back to bed. But yeah, thanks for being part of it. I really appreciate you. I know. Oh my goodness. Alrighty. You wanna go back to bed? Is it bedtime? Amy. Oh yeah, and then Patreon links as well. So I have 2 different Patreons. One is get my 3D printable models. Are you sneezing down there? And then one is to learn how to sculpt. So I also teach. Oh, they kind of linked together, didn't they? That's just one giant link. 1 second. Maverick, I'll let you out in just a second. Yeah, we're gonna put them separate because YouTube is trying to make it into one gigantic link. I know. All right, that wraps it up. Thanks y'all for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye.